Well, now that we have a table on our slide, let's talk a little bit about how we can customize that table. And the first thing I want to do is learn how to adjust my row and my column widths. Now, if I click inside of my table, you're going to see if you point at the dividing line in between different columns, your cursor changes. When I have this cursor that has the two parallel lines with the arrows pointing left and right, I can resize a column. If I press and hold and drag over to the left, you'll see that border moves. I can then do the same thing here for each of my columns. If I want to adjust the overall size of the table, I have to drag from this end point right there in the middle. I'll press and hold and drag over, and you'll see my table adjusted. But when I adjust the whole size of my table, it also adjusts my different column widths proportionally. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and undo that. So you're going to undo all these changes. And you're going to see if I point at the center of the right-hand edge of this table and press and hold, you'll see I can drag over, and it's going to resize all of your columns proportionally. So that may be more what I'm looking for. And you could do the same thing with the row heights. If I point at the dividing line in between John's row and the name row, you're going to see again I can drag down and change the appearance of that table. Or I can drag up just like that. Now, if you want to insert or delete rows and columns, that's also very easy. I'm going to go ahead and click here in my table, and I've clicked on Fall. And I'm actually going to come to the Layout tab in Table Tools. And when I do that, you're going to see we get an option to delete columns, rows, or the entire table. And we also get some options to insert rows above or below, or columns to the left or the right. When it refers to above, below, left, and right, it's referring to your position inside of the table. If I click right here, I'm in the Fall column. So if I wish to place a blank column in between the name column and the Fall column, I need to insert a column to the left of my cursor. So I'm going to come up here and click Insert Left, and you'll see I get a new blank column. And I'm going to go ahead and type Department there, and then enter in some information. The same thing can be done with rows. If I wish to place a row in between John and Mary, I need to click in one of those two rows and then choose the appropriate item up here. For example, inserting somebody in between John and Mary, if I've clicked somewhere in John's row, I'm going to want to insert that row below. So I'll go ahead and click Insert Below, and you'll see we get another row for me to type information into. So I can go ahead and type in information into that row. So very easy to delete and insert rows and columns by using these different commands right here. You also have the option of right-clicking. And when you right-click, you'll see you get some options for inserting and deleting rows and columns. And again, it depends on where you right-click as to what you're going to delete or where you're going to insert the item. So that's how you insert and delete rows and columns and how you resize rows and columns. Now, coming back again here to Table Tools, we selected a theme right up here. And you're going to notice that I've got alternating rows here. And that's actually called banded rows, and you're going to see I have that option checked there. If I uncheck that, you're going to see that the banding goes away. If I check it again, it'll return. I can also do banded columns, where every other column has some highlighting on it. But in this case, I want to go ahead and do rows. So I'm going to take off the banding on the column and put the banding back on the rows. You can always highlight and change any of the shading or border styles. For example, I'm going to click here under shading, and I'm going to go ahead and select this orange here. Something that will stand out, and you'll see the way that looks. Probably not the best color, so I can click that drop down arrow there again, and I can select another color. And since all these colors are from the color scheme, I can just simply find something here that kind of matches and click it, and now that looks a little bit better. We can do the same thing with borders. I can come in here and use these predefined borders, or take the border off altogether. In this case, I have a border on the bottom. So that's a little bit about how you can customize tables inside of PowerPoint. Now, just because I don't have a layout object on this particular slide does not mean that I can't insert additional items in here. For example, let's say we want a text box to appear in this area that's going to have some information in it. To do that, I'm going to come back to my Home tab, and I'm actually going to look in the Drawing section right here. Now, we're going to deal more with these shapes in a later video. But something I want to draw your attention to is this text box tool. If I click that, I can then come anywhere on my design, press and hold, and drag a box out. When the box is the shape and the size that I want, I just simply release. And I can now type information into this slide. And I can go ahead and type, for more information, please contact John Smith, J. Smith at somewhere at Fullerton. It's somewhere. There probably is a J. Smith at Fullerton.edu at somewhere.com. So now I have that little note there. And again, you can format this text in any way you want. I can go ahead and highlight it. And just like in Microsoft Word, I've got the font section here to change any of the font characteristics, my paragraph formatting options, my alignment options. I'm actually going to change the alignment of this to centered. Looks a little bit better. And I'm going to go ahead and change the font color a little bit to something different. Go ahead and select that. And then I'm going to use this increment up button to make my font a little bit larger. And you're going to see at that point my box is too small. So I'm going to need to use these side control points to drag this out. And then go ahead and point at the edge and get it positioned the way I want. So again, you can place other kinds of objects on a slide even if you don't have a layout item for it. You just have to go ahead and create the text box or insert the picture or table or whatever you want. For example, again, I can go to Insert, and there's my table option. I'll click on Table, and I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be a 5-row, 2-column table. I'll click that, and then I can move my table down here. Maybe adjust the size to match that. Come in here and choose a matching style I might want. You can click the drop down arrow there and see them all at the same time. There we go. Whoops, that's not the right one. That's the right one. And then I could type information in. And I'll go ahead and type in the same information here. And there we have another table on our slide.